Brought to you by Sure.
8:33 and a half from a sun-kissed Isle of Man, and the TT Grandstand ready to go with the final day of racing here at the Festival of Motorcycling with the Manx Grand Prix Senior, and late this afternoon, of course, that's the race this afternoon, and the lightweight and ultra lightweight will be at 10:15 this morning. Chairman of the Manx Motorcycle Club, Peter Maddocks, is here with us. We've got Mr. Washer here as well, who from the 1958. Yes, whew. The old brain just went for a minute. 1958 winner, and of course the guest of honour, Mr. Frank Whiteway, is here in the studio. We also joined a bit earlier on by the police, and I want to say the police squad and the God squad.
Well,
that sounds quite good, doesn't it?
Yeah,
the Reverend.
right.
We've got some questions coming in for Peter, but Peter, you just want to add some on the back of the story that Ernie was talking about a few moments ago.
Yes, if you have access to Francis Bates' biography, which is a tremendous read in its own right, there is an absolutely fabulous, charismatic picture of Ernie with Mr. Sadler after he won the Manx with the trophy and the bikes, which is worth a look.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people will have that book in their collection, because as soon as a book comes out in any way, shape or form related to the TT or the Manx Grand Prix or the Southern 100 or road racing in general, I know people just snap them up straight away. So, right. Beth, loads of messages coming in this
Loads of messages. And we just want to, again, sort of take this opportunity to say thank you to all the people who make this happen. And Peter, I'm sure you'd echo this, but we've talked about the marshals, who are, of course, crucial. Alex has been in touch to say, can I say a massive well done to the 70-plus scouts who've been working on the scoreboards this week. All the best as well for today's racing.
And they've been doing tours as well around the back of there too, I believe. They said they did TT, taking people around, which of course the money goes into the scout funds as well. So if you took part to, because normally you just hear, if you come to the grandstand and in between the pit stops, you can hear them shouting and hollering and that, and they bang the old boards on the thing. I never was a scout, so I never got a chance to do that, but I know a lot of guys who have worked for the station in the time have been scouts at some point working in there, and it hasn't changed since these gentlemen were riding, which I think is great, and long may it continue. I think it's great, because things like that, never mind these electronic scoreboards, don't want that. We want that, because that's proper atmosphere.
Part of the event, isn't it? Now we've got a question for you, Peter. This is concerning the running of the event, which has been fantastic according to Paul, but can the rule of not being able to use the same 250cc in the Classic TT and MGP lifted? I've only got one bike, but the MGP won't let me use it in their event.
That's not strictly true. What we're desperately trying to do is not repeat parts of the Classic TT. It's important that the festival stands in its own right and has such variation that all sorts of people are interested. It doesn't say you can't use it. It says we would not normally accept a machine from the Classic TT into the Manx Grand Prix. But in fact we have had two this year in the 250 Yamahas, which overlap between the eligibility era of the Classic TT and are the last racing machines available in that class, that therefore we accept them.
So if somebody is in that position, what do they need to... Oh, thank you. Bacon Bap's just been delivered. So if somebody's in that position, what do they need to do then?
They need to ask us well in advance of the event. We will consider it. That's all I will say. It's not a guarantee. That it's specific to certain machines which are of interest to the Manx Grand Prix, but also by age are eligible for Classic TT. So they just need to email into the club and ask what they want to do.
And I suppose this just gives an insight into the intricacies of organising this event and making sure that people feel that they can race in the way that they want to, but then, you know, as you say...
Manx Grand Prix is a very special event in the world these days, because we have very few rules. We're not into homologation and vehicle types and all of this. It's a very open class. We would like to see more thoroughbred racing machines, but they're not being made anymore. And the last of the Yamahas are really the only machines which are competitive in the Manx Grand Prix. But with the dates change that have occurred in Classic TT, they're now being eligible in certain parts of that. So there are just those few machines that really transition from one event to the other, and we will consider it, but we're just trying not to make the whole thing a repeat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Beth, go on.
I was just going to ask, do you still have bikes, Frank?
I do, yes.
Okay. What have you got?
I've got a 750 Kawasaki, an old one, and I've got two trials bikes. Well, pardon me, only one. Recently sold one. Bikes I've restored that I rode way back in the, the...
What is the trials bike? What have you got?
Baby Suzuki.
Okay.
The chrome frame thing.
Oh, lovely.
Lovely bike, yeah.
And Are you going to watch any of the 2-day trial which is on? Because it has the classic side as
hopefully,
well,
but
isn't it? Yeah?
we're going home tomorrow, so that's the end of that.
Oh, well, that's a shame that you can't watch that, because it is quite good.
I love trialling. I always have done.
And do you still do any yourself still?
No, I got too old and too feeble to ride in trials. So.
But if you've got the bike and you just, it's obviously restored, and that's a bit of pride, isn't it? You spent the hours in your shed, in your garage.
It was just a box full of bits when I bought it, literally.
And that's the
My
best
wife
way.
went mad. She was like, "What the hell are you putting in?" You'll never turn that into a motorcycle because there's no rims, there's no spokes, there's just bare hubs. But luckily, I worked in a place where I could take it in and do a lot of work on it. So. Nice engineering machine, shop, and I.
Well, that's the thing, you see, isn't it? As soon as she says you won't ever build that, so yes, I will. that is the way it is. Do you still have any bikes, Ernie, at all? Do you still?
Yes, I've got 3 actually. I've got an R1100S, an XBR 500, which I rode in the VMCC parade a couple of years ago. I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I bought a new CBR 500. My nephew. We were up in Crawley to see my sister, and we always go to bike shops, obviously, and he said, that would suit you, Ernie, that CBR. So when I got back to Somerton, I thought, well, I'll go and sort of try one, and I tried it, and it's a fabulous machine. It's got so much torque, and it buzzes, and because it's I think 180-degree crank, you get 2 foreign strokes and then 2 overlaps. So because it makes it like a long torque. So because I'm so used to a single, I just couldn't get used to it. It took me hundreds of miles before I sort of managed to rev it because I'm so used to a single. But
and you still ride that on the road?
Yes, I ride on the road. As I say, I done the VMCC parade, but we've been watching the races this year, and there's a race there which possibly I may be able to ride in. So Harry sort of suggested, well, perhaps we can come over next year. But also, I rode my winning Manx in the 90th anniversary. A gentleman from Holland. That was fate. I am a believer in fate as well. And I had a phone call from a chap I used to work with. He said, well, did you ride for Mr. Sadler? I said, yes. He said, well, there's a chap in Holland has got a Manx Norton, and it was ridden by Ken Tully and owned by Sadler. He said it's got no history at all. If anybody's got any history, would I let him know? So I emailed him, told him. So I said, would you like something? He said yes. So I sent him all the information. And he said when he actually read it, he had tears in his eyes. He's so emotional about it. We met again this year. But anyway, I needed a bike to ride in the past winners parade. So he said, well, I'm coming over to the Manx this year. He said, I may bring the Manx. I said, well, if you bring the Manx, could I borrow the Manx and ride it, which he agreed. So he brought it over, but the trouble was I've had a couple of minor strokes and I sort of haven't quite got the feeling. I can use a brake fine, but with the gear changing, I just could not change gear. I felt so embarrassed, and I was quite ashamed of myself when I finished, but I shouldn't have been because I got it round. But another thing, I was the last to finish, so in actual fact I created another record for myself because that's the slowest lap I've ever done. But Gerard is over, he's just ridden it round in this parade, and my goodness, because he still races in Holland on this 500.
On your bike?
Yes. He was leading the championship, but because this weekend there's a meeting on, he's missed it. So therefore, he's going to drop to third, but he should finish second, But he's an absolute fabulous man. We get on so well together. So next year we're sort of hoping that he will bring his Manx over. Harry is we sort of talking about, I'd like to ride a 7R actually, because that's my favourite bike actually. They're a beautiful bike, and so we got sort of, Harry and I have been discussing about, how we can get 7R. I said, well, if necessary, I've always wanted to buy a 7R, but I thought, no, I mustn't really spend that amount of money. But I think, well, I'm 87 now, and I'm still reasonably fit. And I thought, last night, I couldn't sleep last night. I kept thinking, I wasn't so much worried about coming here, I was thinking about buying a 7R.
yeah.
Quick question for you, Frank, and
Yes.
this has been asked on Facebook. Have you still got your old riding gear, the pudding basin helmet?
No, I haven't. Unfortunately, I gave them away to the Manx Heritage Museum.
Brilliant.
And they're studying there with the old T500 that I rode in 1970.
Brilliant. Excellent.
And,
okay, so that's in there. So that's down the Manx Museum
That's down the
in
Manx
Douglas.
Museum. In
there.
Douglas,
So
yeah.
if you want to pop down there today after the racing, of course, sit and watch the racing first. Now we need to take a little short break, and then when we come back, we're going to hear from the Isle of Man Meteorological Office. That's the full title today. We're going to hear from them and get the latest on the weather. But we'll be back at the grandstand in a couple of moments.
On Manx